Summer temperatures are making way for fall weather, and marathoners all over the world have their eyes set on fast times. So it's time to tuck into the pack and hang on. This is a runner's weekend at the Chicago Marathon. Yo, what's going on? It is Chicago Marathon weekend. We've got a whole weekend full of pop-ups, shakeout runs, going to the expo and seeing everybody. So let's get this weekend started off with some pop-ups with my friend Drew. So there's like a couple of things going on right here. Dorphins is over there. Brooks is over there. Bandit is over here, another really long line this year. Drew was walking over after grabbing some lunch, so I got in line for us at the Bandit Popup. The line was long, but it moved relatively quickly. And Drew had great timing, arriving right as I got to the front of the line. Scott, man, good to see you. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
I'm looking forward to seeing what's inside. This is awesome. The theme for the pop-up this year was research simulation, with a wind tunnel-inspired entrance to the pop-up space. Inside, the turbine motif continued to the overhead fixtures, and the now classic Bandit approach to retail worked out well here. As usual, some of the most popular items had already sold out by the time I got there. But overall, I think Bandit has been doing a very good job in terms of predicting how much race weekend product to stock. Next, Drew and I headed over to Brooks for what I believe was their first Chicago Marathon pop-up. Last year, they kind of shared space with Pioneers and a local coffee shop. This year, Brooks went big, showing off not only their newest race product, but also the Pioneers collab Hyperion Max 3. There were a lot of giveaways and events on the calendar, which gave people multiple reasons to visit the space. And I think between the Hyperion House at the Marathon Trials, the pop-ups they've been doing in Boston, and now this pop-up in Chicago, I think Brooks is finally hitting its stride in terms of community engagement. But none of this would matter if the product weren't there, and I think with some of the gambles they've taken with shoes like the Glycerin Max, the Hyperion Max, and the Hyperion Elite 5, I think Brooks' risks are being rightfully rewarded. Next, I wanted to visit Hoka. I'd gotten an invite to an event the day before that I couldn't attend, so I at least wanted to visit the store to see what they had prepared for the marathon weekend. I could have sworn they had a store like right across the street from where the Brooks and Bandit pop-ups were, so I figured we'd walk. But it turns out they're in a new space that is much further up Michigan Avenue. It looked like there was a bit of a schedule of events for the weekend, and inside there were some massages and sign-making things happening. But this was a permanent retail space and not a pop-up, and it seemed like most of the people in the shop were just shopping. Like, I don't know if they even realized there was a marathon happening that weekend. Our last stop for the day would be at the Tracksmith Popup. It was in the same space that they've been in for years now, and as always, the space was very full. This pop-up is one of the few places where you can actually see and try on a variety of Tracksmith pieces, and a lot of people take advantage of the opportunity. They also have a lot of Chicago-themed gear, as well as a Majors hoodie that is intended for you to be able to customize and bring with you as you progress along your 6-star or 7-star, I guess, chase. They had a collab with an artist that had a bunch of retro Chicago Marathon tees, and I was hoping to buy one of those, but they had very quickly sold out already that morning. Just finished having some coffee with Drew. He's gonna go to a pop-up race, I think. I am going to head over now to meet some friends who I've been following on TikTok. They're having a Runtok Party. I'm not sure exactly, I mean, I know where it is. I have the address, but I'm not sure exactly where it is. It's at someone's house. So we're gonna head over there now. I did not get invited to this Runtok Party because of my follower count. It was hosted at my friend Billy's house. My other friend Cynthia was also at this party, and I know Billy and Cynthia because we'd see each other running along the lakefront in the winter. We were the crazy ones. Also at this party were Jess and Milo, who I met through TikTok, but also then in person during Chicago Marathon weekend a couple years ago. And the rest of the people there, I did not know. And none of them had any idea who I was. I was just a regular person at this party, which was nice. The event was lovely, and there were sponsors who donated swag bags for everyone. And there was also a raffle for some bigger prizes. So unfortunately, I had to leave the party early. I was having a really good time. It was great to talk to people that I've known either in real life, like Cynthia and Billy, or people that I only know through TikTok, not through any other social media. But on the way out, I bumped into someone I've known pretty much longer than anyone as far as people that I've met through the internet goes. Colin is someone that I met probably when I had maybe less than 100 subscribers. And there was like a group of us. It was me, Colin, and Seth James Demore. We were all friends and just supporting each other, making our own videos. And so since before I was monetized, I've known Colin, and we've been following each other for a really long time. And Colin wasn't a runner when I first met him. He was into photography. And now, since then, he has started running. And so now, even though our paths crossed a long time ago, our paths are crossing again now. And believe it or not, this was the first time I met him in person, even though I've known him for like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, for a really long time. So it was great to meet Colin in person. But now I did have to leave early because my running buddy, who I've known even longer than anyone else, since I've known him since before I started running again as an adult. My running buddy's having some people over. They're having a party at their house, him and his wife. So I'm gonna go over and enjoy some time with some other runners. My other friend, who I went to a law school with, she just ran Twin Cities Marathon. She'll be there with her husband. He's also a marathoner. My running buddy and his wife are marathoners as well. So it'll be a lot of marathoners, but not social media people. So it'll be a nice, normal rest of the evening. I don't think I'll stay there too long, unfortunately. Feeling a little bit under the weather. So I want to get some rest before all the activities for tomorrow. It is about 7:30 in the morning here on a Saturday. I am heading down to Chicago for one of 2 runs that I'm going to do today. The second one that I'm going to do is a 7-mile solo run, probably along the lakefront, just getting in my miles for the day. The first run of the day, though, is going to be the really exciting one. I'm going to do about 3 miles for the Kofuzi Run Club Shakeout. The Kofuzi Run Club Shakeout was hosted by ASICS and Fleet Feet, who provided a great space for us to meet up before the run for some selfie time. I got a chance to meet a lot of new people from all over the world, and I also got to meet and reconnect with people from the Kofuzi Run Club livestream. ASICS provided a bunch of shoes for testing, and I think that because these gatherings are getting so big, they just simply don't have enough demo shoes for everyone to be able to test a pair of shoes that wanted to. Sorry about that. John Career and his brother, Wesley Career, were there with their company, Bingwa Coffee, and they were the coffee sponsor for the event. And Fleet Feet provided the Pacers, which I was immensely grateful for. Thanks you guys so much for doing what you're doing, making sure that we don't lose everybody. Without Pacers, we can't support all paces. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Real inspiration.
All right, thanks. Soon it was time to start the run, and I had to pause the selfie line so that we could get the run started. Once outside, I tried to say a few motivating words. I kind of botched it a little bit, but I hope everyone got the gist of what I was trying to say.
At some point, the marathon is going to ask you, do you still want it? Do you still want that PR? Do you still want to finish? Do you still think you can do it? And the only thing you need to do at that point is say, yes, I can. Yes, I want it. That's all it takes. When it's hard, that's the marathon asking you, do you still want it? And you say, yes, I can. Yes, I want it. That's the advice that I have for you guys tomorrow. And then the last thing I want to do before we get going is, if you guys will indulge me, I'm gonna say yo, and then you guys will say, what's going on? Does that work for everyone? Yeah. All right, ready? Let's give it a good Chicago yo this time too. Yo, what's going on? All right, thanks guys. Get your watches ready. Find a pacer and let's have some good miles.
The shakeout route started off a bit rough, but soon we got to the lakefront where there's plenty of space and gorgeous views. The weather was perfect, and it was overwhelming to see so many happy Kofuzi Run Club runners enjoying one of my favorite places in the world.
Good job, guys.
After the run, we took even more selfies, and I know that some of you had to wait a very long time, so I appreciate your patience so much. Especially because I had to pause the selfies for a moment for a quick photo shoot with Fleet Feet.
Fleet Feet wanted to shoot something real quick, so I had to take a break from the photo line. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Fastest photo shoot ever.
See you tomorrow, man.
All right.
Of course.
Gonna head back inside, take some more pictures.
But eventually, we got through the line, we took all the selfies, and it was pretty much just me and Drew left. I finally got a coffee, which was delicious. I bought 6 bags at the Bing Walk Coffee. And then Drew and I were off to get some brunch.
Just finished having brunch with Drew. Dropped him off at the L. He's gonna go put his feet up and get ready for the race tomorrow. I have one more event that I have to do. I'm gonna be speaking at the expo. Got a little bit of time before I'm supposed to be on stage, so let's actually go check out what the expo is like this year.
The thing that surprised me at the expo this year was at just how much official marathon merch was still left. The expo would only be open for a few more hours, and the race was the very next morning. But there was still a lot of inventory of a lot of items in a lot of sizes. I suppose that's good for shoppers, but based on what I've seen at the last few marathon majors, this was a bit of a surprise. Next, I went over to the Shocks booth, which seems to be getting bigger and bigger every year. I don't love their open ear technology, but I have been running in and have been enjoying the open dots. They fit on the ear, kind of like a clip-on earring, and they sound more like a regular earbuds. Fleet Feet had a lot of Chicago-themed merch, some of which was very nice and some of it strangely phallic. I stopped to visit my friends at Sports Stores, who I've worked with to run 3 marathon majors. They're getting ready to put together a trip to Cape Town for, I guess, what is now going to be a provisional 8th marathon major star. And then next door to them was ASICS. And I saw tech reps working there who had also helped work the Kofuzi Run Club event that morning, and I know they just had to be tired.
On's booth was very pretty as usual. Saucony had a lot of Chicago exclusive, which I thought was very well done. And Koros bought a bunch of watches, which if you haven't seen the new screen on the Pace Pro, you should find a way to check it out in person. It's just so bright and crisp. Topo had a small but mighty booth. They also had some Chicago exclusives, which is interesting to me because they're based in Boston, but I'm not sure I've ever seen them make a Boston-themed shoe. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. Tracksmith also had a booth at the expo, which means they had both a pop-up and a space at the expo, and they apologized to me that it was so sparse and disorganized. I thought it looked great though, but they said that they had been slammed throughout the entire expo and now we're just about sold out of everything. Adidas' booth was very small and quite underwhelming. They were pretty much only selling shoes. No apparel, no displays, just like rows and rows of shoes. But they told me that they were also really busy the entire expo and were able to move a lot of products. So I guess there wasn't a need for them to go big. Hoka's booth, though, was the opposite of the Adidas booth. It was giant. And they had a couple of Wahoo Kicker Run treadmills for people to test out some shoes. And I always appreciate that they have exploded versions of their shoes so I can see all the different components. I end up filming it every time I see it, and I use it in my shoe reviews later. By then, it was time to head over to the main stage to meet up with Lindsay and Tommy Runs before we headed on stage.
Okay, I don't have a lot here, guys, but we're gonna do it.
Our time slot was like the last hour of the last day of the expo before it closed. So it was a rough time slot to be in attendance-wise, but we had a solid showing, and I'm very thankful for everyone who came to listen.
All right, guys, that's it from the expo. Time to get to bed and get ready for the race.
Race day morning, I got an early start to try and see the pros as I loaded up before the race. The athletes tend to come down in what appears to be a variety of mental states. Some are easygoing and some are super intense.
Just you and me.
And there's also agents and coaches there, and some of the broadcast team as well. For the most part, the rest of the guests at the hotel will keep to themselves and won't bother the pros. But when I did stop and chat with Dina Castor for a moment, a few of her fans then asked for selfies. Dina is super gracious about it, but I don't ever want to create a situation where competing athletes might get interrupted on the morning of a race if I stop them to chat. So I generally try to stay hidden and out of the way. The athletes go through a security screening before they get on the bus, because the buses take them directly within the secured area of the starting line. But it all seems like a lot of fuss because of the fact that the starting line is like a couple of blocks away from the hotel.
The pros have loaded onto the buses. You can go back to the car, switch out lenses, grab the GoPro or the DJI, and then get into position for the start of the race.
Once the athletes headed out, I go to my usual spot on an overpass near the start line. I have to get there pretty early to get a good spot. And even though I dressed with an extra layer, specifically with that part of the morning in mind, I was nearly uncontrollably shivering with cold by the time the wheelchair race started. Soon after the elites were announced, once the gun went off, the armada of media and support vehicles took off with the pro men and women behind them.
'25 Chicago Marathon underway. The pros are out. John went out fast. Let's get over to see him at the next spot.
The first stop comes up quick. The athletes are at about the 1.5 mile point in the race. Everyone is still very bunched up in the pack. And to be honest, I don't actually see much of what is happening in the race because it's all happening so fast. The women followed quickly behind the men, and sometimes because a media car or a security vehicle may get in my shot, I can't always focus what I want to focus on. So a lot of times I'm just reacting to whatever I'm finding in my peripheral vision and hoping for the best. After the women came through, I had to move fast again to get to my next spot, which was about a mile later in the race, but a few blocks from me with the shortcut I took. Even so, the men were moving so fast that I missed the lead pack.
The men already went by. They're way too fast. Oh my God. Can't believe I'm the best part. Great job, Connor! Looking good, boys! Yeah! Woo! Looking good, Rory! Let's go, Rory! Woo! My God, they're going so fast.
I had a few seconds to catch my breath as a men's chase pack and then the women's lead packs came through, but when I spotted the American women's lead, I started to chase.
Looking good, Hoggers! Woo!
Then, when I stopped running because I couldn't keep up anymore, I saw another chase pack coming. Natasha Rogers was in this group, and I wanted to follow. And then I noticed that Olympic 1500 meter gold medalist from the 2016 Rio Games, Matt Centrowitz, was also in this pack.
Looking good, Centro. Oh, there it is. Let's go, Ben!
At this point, I had some time. I had a team in place to help with coverage for this race, and Luke Talbot will be covering 2 spots on the north side. So I wouldn't see the race again until it came back into the loop at around the halfway mark. So I took some time to find some friends before heading out over to pick out my next shooting location.
All right, the pros came through. Watch some of my friends. Let's head to about mile 13.
While I love mile 13 from a race coverage perspective, it makes sense to be able to see the athletes about halfway through the race, I don't love this particular spot. Even when I get there early, it gets very crowded and difficult to get a clear shot. So while I enjoyed chasing John Career through this stretch, and it gives a good sense of just how fast the lead pack is moving, it's really hard to actually see the athletes, at least with the equipment that I have. So it's one of those spots where I just kind of have to turn on the camera and run along the athletes and hope that I got something good. Now at this point, I had to make the decision that I dread making for every race. Do I follow the lead men, or do I wait for the women to come through? Choosing one means missing the other, and there's never a great way of making the decision. But the main storylines for me that day were Career going after the world record and Mance going after the American record, so I decided to head over immediately to Greektown to follow the men. Greektown did not disappoint. This is my favorite spot to shoot this race. It's never crowded here. The sun this time of morning is gorgeous if you've got a sunny day, and you've got the runners and the Sears Tower as a backdrop. Korir and Kiplimo were shoulder to shoulder, stride for stride, and they were moving incredibly fast. And then I experienced one of the most surreal running moments of my life. Conor Mantz was coming through with a giant pack, still on American record pace, and the shot was lining up perfectly. And for a second, I noticed that Clayton Young, who was on the media car, was waving to me. We were sharing in the excitement of this American record chase. And then as the pack pulled away from me, a follow car slowed down and a window started to open. It was Ted Metellus, the race director of the New York City Marathon, cheering for me as I was trying to capture this unique sporting moment. At this point, I had to move immediately if I wanted to get to the finish line in time. From a coverage perspective, Bryan Liang would go to mile 19 to see both the men and women. But if I wanted to see the finish, I had to hustle a couple miles across from my spot at mile 17. I got there just in time to hear an announcement that Korir had dropped from the race, and it would be just Kiplimo left in front, although he had fallen off of world record pace. Mantz gave the podium a good scare, but had to settle for fourth, but he did get that American record. I stayed for the rest of the pro men and women finishers, and I saw some of my faster non-elite friends. But from there, it was time to meet up with Brian and Luke to exchange footage. Then I was back out on the course to cheer on the rest of my friends as they finished their races. This year, I've been reevaluating every event I go to. I'm traveling way more than my body and my family can handle, and I have to be more selective about the time I spend away from home. And because I've run this race a literal half dozen times and have now covered it from the pro end of the race for 2 years in a row now, I was thinking that this might be my last year for a while. I spent a lot of time driving back and forth from my home in the far suburbs, and that's just part of what made it feel like Chicago was no longer my hometown. All weekend, I felt like this race, and more broadly, this city, had moved on. And I kept feeling like it was telling me to move on too. But with the surprises and the stories and the people that Chicago connected me to in 2025, it's going to be very hard not to come back again next year.
Going up, don't look down.